Hey guys, this is Wanda and welcome to Crazy Days. Today is another conversation with friends, and so if I look a little teary-eyed, it's because we've already been laughing and carrying on before we even got started. And today it's going to be a little bit lippy. It's going to be a little bit different, and so I'm having to do this via Zoom, and we're also doing our camera, so I'm hoping it's going to turn out like we want it. But Lippy is in Kentucky. I am in Mississippi, so we're doing this via Zoom. So, y'all, I want to introduce you to one of my friends that I've known for like 3 or 4 years now. She and I have a little coffee chat occasionally when we can get our schedules to match. And so, Lippy is originally from Louisiana. She is Gemini Homestead, and she is on YouTube. So, Lippy grew up in Louisiana. She lived in Louisiana all her life. And Lippy, tell us a little bit about your bilingual home that you grew up with, and your father, your mom. What kind of childhood did you have?
Well, first off, my childhood might have been a little different than some. I am one of 3 children that my parents had, and I came late in life. My mother was 50 years old. So my brother was in Vietnam, my sister was grown, and then here comes me. And when Wanda mentioned, here comes Lippy. But I've always said that that was the greatest gift I could have been given, because having older parents, it gave me a sense of being grounded, a sense of the home environment, what really mattered. It wasn't the football games. It wasn't so much taking family vacations, but what it was is to spend time with me, basically to watch me. They gave me tools that has carried me thus far. But when Wanda touched on bilingual, my mother was Cajun. My mother spoke Cajun French. My dad spoke broken Cajun. His primary was English. So when mom would get upset, or if the adults wanted to talk without children's ears, they would speak in French. It was a culture that I actually think has diminished over these years. I'm sure it's still embedded within Louisiana, but it's not as profound and dominant as it was as I was growing up as a child. It's a culture that I still practice today in my own home. Even though I'm in Kentucky, it'll always be a Cajun influence environment. And then my dad being an awesome chef. I can remember there's a metal stool that I have in my kitchen, and I used to climb up on that stool, and I helped my dad cook in the kitchen. We moved from the kitchen into a restaurant. So as a very young child, what I found to be fun, who knew that it was going to be my ultimate dream to follow in my father's footsteps and prepare meals, because breaking of the bread with family and friends, there's no greater joy, no greater joy. So my influence was learning to cook with my father, learning to garden with my dad, cooking what we grew. And that kind of molded me. Being from extreme adult parents, 50 years and up, there wasn't a whole lot they could do with me. And I'm so glad, because what they did do with me has made me who I am today.
So, if you had to give us a little French lesson, what was something that your mom said to you like all the time? You knew she meant business when she was talking to you. What was her phrase when she was addressing you that you knew it got your attention at all times?
One word. And that word is Denise. Not Denise. It was Denise. And that was it. I went outside.
So when your father, you spent more time obviously with him than mom, right?
Yes.
Seems like.
Yes.
And so what was his way of getting your attention?
See, that's what's so odd is I don't remember any times of getting corrected or to my memory. I've never had a spanking in my life. It was, I don't, maybe that's what's wrong with me. But anyhow, it was, he would, he called me by my first name. I was named after my father's mother. Her name was Mabel Shaw. He would say Mabel. And then I knew, okay, it's time to listen. But it was a very different childhood. Why? My niece, my nephew, the friends, I went to school with, they all did the kid thing. I found it fun to do the mama daddy thing with my mom and dad. For entertainment, I grew up playing a piano from the time I was 5. I had a piano on one side of the living room. We had an organ on the other, and I had a guitar. And every evening I would play instruments, and my parents would dance from the kitchen to the living room and back. So to answer a question, to get my attention, they didn't need to get my attention because I was their attention, if that makes sense.
And it seems like that they held your attention. You weren't one of those kids that ignored your parents. You paid attention to them, and when they spoke, you were listening, and there was a minute time Mama had to say something, but you knew when Mama was like, okay, I mean business now.
Yes, because it was just us 3. I know when we had company over, or if we went to my aunt's house, uncle's house, because my mom was one of 8. And I guess it was my schooling from them, the learning, but the adults, we'd get through eating, coffee would be served at the table, and I would go in on a stool and I would hand wash all the dishes. It wasn't that I was made to do it. It was the way I was raised, because my cousins of my age are really my brother and my sister's age, which is in their mid-70s. So I was kind of like a second cousin to my first cousins. So I kind of grew up just being mature, really. I just wanted to be around the adults. Kids were, how do I say this? I'm going to pull a Lippy. Kids were kind of ridiculous. I enjoyed the adults.
So something I didn't know, you played the piano. So what is some of your favorite music to play? And have you played lately in the last 10 years?
Well, there's a story about that. When my mother passed in 1994, 93, I was 27 years old. So I was still wet behind the ears. And that really profoundly impacted me. And I closed my piano lid, and I have not picked it up since 1994. And I gave it to my daughter. And my daughter plays some, and my granddaughter. So it's been since 94. But Beethoven was really my favorite. But my father liked boogie woogie. He liked the old country, the old rock, because him and my mom used to jitterbug. They would go to different venues and they would compete and they would jitterbug dance. So I grew up in more of a rock and roll, as in rock and roll to them. And that's what I would play. On Sundays, we would have Sunday lunch at 12:30, and the whole family would come over, and my cousin would play the organ, and I would, as he called it, beat on the piano, and we would sing and play the old hymns, your traditional old hymns. I think that was grounded because I came from a family that was grounded. We were all about breaking bread and fellowshipping and rejoicing every day because tomorrow isn't promised.
Well, see, it's funny because I didn't know you played the piano, but I played. I took lessons from the time I was in the maybe 3rd grade, and one of my recitals, I was given this little bitty Beethoven figurine as a gift. Little head thing. And I liked to play Beethoven. That was one of the recital pieces I guess I had to do.
Yeah.
And then as I was learning, I could not pick up the boogie woogie stuff and the country music stuff and all that. All I can play is traditional hymns. I never could get into anything else. I loved hearing it, and I love hearing other people, but I play strictly by shape note. It's hard for me. I can play round notes now. I taught myself how to play round notes, but in the beginning, I could only play shape notes, which meant just as I am, and when the roll is called up yonder, and those type songs, Sweet Hour of Prayer, and those things that our age know what we're talking about. When you say those songs, you remember them, I remember them, and most of the people that are our age remember those songs.
You mentioned Beethoven. In 1976, there was a recital, and I was to play, and it was the Small Symphony. And so Mother, she was a fantastic seamstress, and she sewed me the prettiest bicentennial dress, and it came just above my ankles. She took me and got me these, I was kind of a tomboy, so she got me these cute little white leather looking shoes. I'm supposed to wear that, right? Because when I sit down, my dress was going to come up. Well, I had a little bag with me, and I brought my basketball shoes. And my mind, as a 13-year-old, I was thinking, oh, she won't know. I couldn't walk in them. They had heels about this big. So I put my basketball shoes on, and I got up at the symphony. The curtains open. I'm sitting at a baby grand, playing my heart out. I mean, I am rocking it out. Yeah, I rocked it out when I got behind stage, because all you could see was these black Converse with these big white stripes, shining glory, underneath this beautiful dress she just sewed me. Girl, I think I was on restriction like a month after that. Matter of fact, I think she spoke French for 3 days. I never heard her say an English word.
That's funny, because my mom was an excellent seamstress. That's what my mom did for, from the time I remember. My mom always had a sewing machine, and she sewed for the public. That was something back then, in our town, there wasn't a lot of women that did that, but my mom did. And I can remember the ladies, like their husbands owned the stores in town. They didn't shop at their own stores.
Yeah.
They brought the material and the patterns, excuse me, to my mom, and she would measure them. You remember them measuring around and all this, and measuring up and down to see how long. And she would measure for them, and she would make their clothes. And they would pay my mom to make the dress the way they wanted it. So my mom made everything we wore pretty much till I was in high school. We everything was made by my mom. She even made the cheerleading outfits for the cheerleaders of 2 different schools. I wasn't a cheerleader. I wasn't into that.
Oh, wow.
But she made the outfits for 2 different schools. She made my wedding dress. She made a lot of the clothes when my oldest 2 were young. She made a lot of their clothes too. And but when I was in high school, I begged her, please let me go buy some blue jeans and stuff. And so she did. She let me go the normal route teenagers do. But she still made like the long dresses for the DECA conventions and stuff. When I went on a DECA convention, we had to have 2 formals. And so she made 2, and I took them with me. And when I got there, one of the girls, she saw one of my dresses, and she says, can I wear that tonight and you wear it tomorrow night? She said, I want to wear that dress. And she had bought a beautiful dress to wear, but she liked my mom's sewing so well, she wanted to borrow my dress. And so,
oh, wow.
So my mom was a really great seamstress, and it's unusual because not too many people remember their moms making their stuff. Usually they just run out and buy it and whatever.
Now see, in high school, there was short skirts coming in. I liked a wraparound skirt, but I was more into the old rock, like Stevie Nicks dress, You know, I got curly hair. I would do the whole hair look, the big ball sleeves. I wore bell bottoms. Heart was another band that I listened to. So I was kind of the opposite. I was more into the rock, the more 60s, I guess, theme. Yeah, and blue jeans, and you know how you had your long keychain that had your name on it, and you'd hang it in your back pocket. And, oh yeah, I thought I was cool, okay? Thought I was cool.
Yeah. Well, I remember my first pair of bell bottoms. Since Mom was a seamstress, we wore dresses. We were from a Baptist that wore dresses all the time. So I grew up, I had to wear dresses or skirts. And so to get my mom to let me buy that first pair of blue jeans was really, really tough. And so the year before, I had wanted some blue jeans. And the girl that lived across the road from me, she was I was 92 pounds in high school, okay? 92. And tall. And the girl across the road gave me a pair of blue jeans, and she said, well, maybe your mom can fix them where you can wear them. The girl was probably about 175 pounds. And they had bell bottoms. My mama took these pants that were like this in the waist and cut them down to this, and she left the bell bottoms because you know... I didn't have normal bell bottoms. I had bell bottoms. That was my favorite pair of pants I ever had in my life. I loved them. They were just the most, she made them fit in the waist, and she tapered them till she got about middle ways of my legs, and then she just left the bell bottoms the way they were. And then I had the platform shoes. You remember those? I had a pair of blue suede shoes with the cork that went from the front to the back, 3 inches. And I was tall, and I had the cork shoes 3 inches from front to back.
Yep, I loved my cork shoes. But I mean, as dresses, that was only if we was going to dinner, maybe a graduation. I literally was in denim, tennis shoes. I would dress to go with my friends if we went to hang out, you know, not in a dress. Hardly ever wore a dress. I was kind of a tomboy, to be honest. I was into sports. I liked to play tennis. I played tennis in high school. The cheerleading was it wasn't my thing. I was more track, played tennis. I was an outdoors person. I was really my daddy's sidekick.
So let's move on. You got married. You had a child. What do you want to talk about in that respect? Because I know a little bit about what went on in your life, but you do have one child, and she's a very good child. She's a mama's girl. She's like her mama. And then you met Buddy. And then we have Gemini Homestead.
Well,
so you want to you want to bring some of that into the conversation here.
So we can go back to I was 21 years old. I met a military fella. I had one child, and I was a single parent till I met Buddy in 2000, 1999 or 2000. 2000, or did we marry in 99. I had to think about it.
I do too.
I had to think about it.
Me all the time.
So I was a single parent, and that was Felicia had some medical problems. Actually, I had twins, and her sibling Grace didn't make it. So when Felicia was at 4 years old, she had her first of multiple surgeries. They had to go in because her and Grace's kidneys were conjoined. So they flew us to Houston Children's Hospital. It was Methodist. And a Dr. Goldfarb, I don't know where he came from. They flew him in. and it was a lengthy surgery, and he was able to take a urethra part out, but the kidneys are still joined. He couldn't break the tissue. But that was for her to be able to empty as a, say, a normal person that has 2 kidneys. That started about age 4, her first surgery, and it went all the way till she was age 8. You would not know it today. You know, she battles a little kidney issue, but you would not ever know it. So I'm very proud of the person she's become, but it was tough raising her. You know, my parents, like I said, was older. Felicia's second surgery, which was her third one in 94. January of 1994, I'll never forget, it was an ice storm. And Mom was mopping the floor. I was in Houston with Felicia. Mom slipped, and they thought she'd broke her hip, went to the hospital, and my mother had stage 5 cancer. So we sold the family home. My parents moved in with me, and I had Felicia in one hospital bed facing one way, and I had my mother in a hospital bed facing this way so they could conversate, you know, and then a teacher would come twice a week to teach Felicia. The state, Louisiana, paid to have a teacher come home. And my dad had just had prostate surgery. So I had him in the middle room. But we made it work. But sometimes I found myself for 16 weeks, because that's how long my mother lived. But I found myself meeting myself on interstate. But I had a lot of family support. Cousins would come in because, you know, here I am with a child, you know, recovering, sickly. Then my mother in treatment. And my dad, at this point, had moved to a walker. That was before he got into a wheelchair. So that profoundly impacted me because I remembered sitting there, and here I am in Houston because Dad wanted Mom to come to Houston to be checked out. And I was like, how do I get her to her appointment? And I don't know if you're familiar, but on large people, there's these wide straps, and you hook them up and you lift them. They're called lift straps. Mm-hmm. So we took one of those, and I wrapped it around my waist. And I told my dad, I said, now you hold the back of this strap. He's in a wheelchair. I'm going to put Felicia in my mama's lap in a wheelchair. And here we go in Houston. Now, mind you, I couldn't even spell Houston back then. And I'm trying to go up this incline, pushing my mom. My daughter's holding both poles. My mom's pole and her pole. And I've got that strap on my hip. And Daddy's trying to help me. I wished I'd have had a picture of that. Because I said right then, when I made it to the top of that hill that seemed like it was 10 miles long, and it was probably only a block, you know. But I said at that moment, you know, the Lord put me here, but he didn't put me here for punishment. He put me here because he knew without a shadow of a doubt that I could withstand any storm. And that was, I think, was the turning point when I looked up, instead of saying why, I looked up and I said, thank you. Because what it was is he was strengthening me, giving me strength and endurance because he could see what I would be faced with on down the road.
This profound moment that you had, you realized the strength that you had. And you realized that God was giving you strength to handle any situation in your life